When I was bleeding out from the car accident, Lu Wenju held my hand and said, "Gigi, don't be afraid, I'll mobilize every resource in the hospital to save you." 3 days later, I woke from my coma. As the nurse changed my bandages, she whispered outside the door, "The director's wife is so pitiful." Half her blood was drained by the director to give to Miss Chen. I didn't cry, I just opened the voice recording app on my phone under the pillow and rasped, "The Miss Chen you're talking about, is it Cheningshua?" The moment I asked, the room went dead silent, like someone hit the mute button. The two nurses stood frozen at the door, one holding a tray of supplies, the other still clutching my thermometer. The younger one's face went pale, her lips twitching, but no sound came out. The older nurse recovered fast. She stepped in with a strained smile. "Miss Lin, you're awake. We were talking about another patient. You must have misheard." I stared at her name badge, Juyun 3. Years ago, when Lu Wenju first took over this hospital, the nursing station was short-staffed. I helped him with internal coordination. Back then, Xiao Ju had just graduated, standing at the back of the crowd, stammering through her self-introduction. I remembered her, and she remembered me. That's why she couldn't meet my eyes. I didn't call her out, I just moved my fingers. The 4 needle was taped to the back of my hand, the puncture site ringed with purple bruising, like someone had pressed down too hard. My chest was suffocating. Every breath felt like broken glass grinding beneath my ribs. "How long was I out?" I asked. Xiao Ju's voice was barely a whisper. 3 days, 3 days. I repeated it. "Where's Lu Wenju?" The older nurse said, "The director is in surgery. He left orders to notify him the moment you woke up." I looked at the monitor beside my bed. The numbers weren't pretty, but I was alive. Being alive should have made me grateful, but those words outside the door had driven a splinter deep into my bones. Half her blood was drained by the director to give to Miss Chen. Lucky the wife survived. Someone just happened to donate. I closed my eyes. The last image before the crash flashed through my mind. Rainy night, intersection. A runaway truck slammed into us from the side. Glass exploded. My leg was pinned. My abdomen was warm and wet. I heard screaming. I heard the ambulance. I heard Lu Wenju rushing to my side. He was wearing dark blue scrubs. That day, didn't even have time to put on his white coat. He knelt on the wet, cold ground, his palm pressing against my wound. "Gigi, don't sleep." I was shaking from the pain. I saw his eyes were red. I asked, "Wenju, am I going to die?" He gripped my hand tight, word by word. "No, you're my wife. I'll mobilize every resource in this hospital to save you." That was the last rope I held onto before I blacked out, but now someone told me he cut that rope in half, and used the other end to tie someone else. "Miss Lin, please don't talk yet." Xiao Ju walked over, her hands trembling as she peeled back my bandage. "The wound isn't stable." I turned my head to look at her. "I'm not Miss Lin, I'm Lu Wenchu's legal wife." Her hands froze, my voice was soft, but I bit out every word. "So I have the right to know about my condition." The older nurse frowned. "Madam, it's better to wait for the director to explain. If he wanted to explain, he should have done it 3 days ago." I lifted my eyes. How much blood did I receive? Where's the resuscitation record? Did I go into secondary shock during surgery? Neither of them spoke. I let out a small laugh. The laugh pulled at my wound, and the pain made everything go black for a second. Xiao Ju instinctively reached out to steady me. "Madam." I grabbed her sleeve, using every ounce of strength I had. Did I almost die? Xiao Ju's eyes reddened. That was all the answer I needed. The door swung open. Lu Wenju stood at the door, still wearing his white coat. His hair was slightly disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. When he saw that I was awake, a flicker of light crossed his eyes at first. Then, as if sensing the tension in the room, his gaze swept over the two nurses. "You two, step out." Xiao Ju lowered her head and picked up the dressing tray. As she reached the door, I suddenly spoke. "Xiao Ju, close the door." Her footsteps froze. Lu Wenju frowned. "Gigi, you just woke up, don't strain yourself." I looked at him. "Then tell me, why am I so weak?" He walked to the bedside, softening his voice. "You were badly injured in the car accident, ruptured spleen, abdominal bleeding. It's a miracle you woke up at all. You need to recover slowly." How much blood did I get? "You don't need to worry about those medical details." I asked how much blood I got. Lu Wenju was silent for a second. That 1 second was enough. He sat down, reaching for my hand. I pulled my hand deeper under the blanket. His hand hung in the air. Gigi, he said quietly, you can't get emotional right now. I looked at the wedding ring on his left hand. I picked that ring the year we got married. He wasn't a director yet, just a surgeon who stayed up late every night doing operations. He said doctors couldn't wear complicated designs on their hands, so I chose the simplest plain band. Later, as his surgeries increased, he often took the ring off and left it in his office. I never complained. I always thought, he saves lives, I should be understanding, but understanding got me this. Between me and Chen Yingxue, he chose to make me tough it out. How is Chen Yingxue? I asked. Lu Wenchu's brow twitched violently. Who told you? He didn't ask why I suddenly brought her up, he only asked who told me. The last shred of hope in my heart finally sank. So it's true, I said. Lu Wenju lowered his voice. Gigi, it's not what you think. Yingxue was also in critical condition. She has a rare blood type. The hospital's temporary blood supply was limited. I had to make a decision based on triage priority. Triage priority. I slowly turned my head to look at him. I had massive hemorrhaging from a car accident. What did she have? He avoided my eyes. She had postoperative bleeding. Also very dangerous. So you diverted the blood meant for me to her. It wasn't meant for you. His voice finally turned cold. The blood supply belongs to the hospital's unified allocation. It doesn't belong to any individual. Those words hit me like a slap. I looked at him and suddenly felt he was a stranger. 3 days ago, he knelt in the rain, saying I was his wife. 3 days later, he sat by my hospital bed, saying the blood supply didn't belong to any individual, so promises were just promises. Signatures were just signatures. When it came down to the real choice, I was just someone who could be explained away. I closed my eyes. Get out. Lu Wenju was taken aback. What did you say? I'm tired, I said. Please get out. He looked as if he hadn't understood. In the past, when we argued, I always gave in first, because he was busy, because he was tired, because he was a doctor, because I couldn't let trivial life matters affect his surgical state. He was used to me backing down. So now, when I told him to get out, he found it absurd. Gigi, you just woke up, don't take it out on your body. I smiled. If I were taking it out, I would have died on the operating table 3 days ago. Lu Wenchu's face instantly changed. Lin Gigi. Footsteps sounded from outside the door. Xiaoju probably hadn't gone far. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at him. Lu Wenju, you're a doctor. You know better than anyone that resuscitation records, transfusion records, and blood allocation authorizations don't just disappear into thin air. The color drained from his face. Bit by bit I continued. If you leave now, I'll still be willing to investigate on my own. If you keep standing here giving me orders, I'll have a lawyer look into it. Lu Wenju stared at me, his expression complicated to the point of being sinister. After a long moment, he finally stood up. Get some rest, he said. We'll talk when you've calmed down. I didn't answer. He stopped at the door and added, Yingxue doesn't know about this. Don't take it out on her. I almost laughed. There I was, lying in a hospital bed, needles stuck in me, the wound still seeping blood, and the first thing he worried about was me. Blaming Chen Yingxue. Get out, I said. Lu Wenchu's back stiffened. He'd never heard that word from me before. The door clicked shut. I reached under the pillow and grabbed my phone. The recording was still running, the timer at 12 minutes and 7 seconds. I saved it and named it, first time. Then I pressed the call button for the nurse. When Xiaoju came in, her eyes were red. I didn't make things hard for her. I just said, help me arrange a transfer. She froze. Madam, your condition isn't stable yet. Then find a hospital that can take me. I took a breath. And do me one more favor. What? Tell me where I can apply for a copy of my intraoperative blood transfusion records. Xiaoju's face went pale. I looked at her, my voice soft. I'm not asking you for anything illegal. Just what I'm legally entitled to as a patient. She was silent for a long moment, then nodded. The medical records office needs the director's signature, but you can apply for a seal first. Good. I sank back into the pillow, staring at the ceiling. 3 days ago, I'd entrusted my life to Lu Wenju. 3 days later, I was taking it back myself. Lu Wenju never expected me to transfer hospitals the same day. He never expected that, while I could barely sit up straight. I'd already sent Jiang Nan to the medical records office with a lawyer's letter and a request to seal the files. Jiang Nan was my college classmate and my colleague before I got married. We'd worked on medical dispute mediation together. Later, she became a lawyer, and I left to run a charity foundation for Lu Wenchu's hospital. When she arrived at my room, her face was even worse than mine. Lin Jiji, you're something else. She stood by the bed, eyes red, cursing at me. Something this big happens, and you only tell me after you wake up. I managed a weak smile. Didn't have the chance before. She placed the documents on the bedside table, holding back her anger. Are you sure about the transfer? Sure. Did Lu Wenju agree? It's my body. I don't need his agreement. Jiang Nan was silent for 2 seconds, then nodded. Fine, I'll handle it. My mother arrived too. The moment she saw me, the thermos in her hand hit the floor, soup spilled everywhere, steam rising from the floor. She covered her mouth. Unable to speak for a long time, I thought I'd cry, but strangely, seeing her made me calmer. Mom, I'm fine. She walked over, her trembling hand touching my face. This is fine, your face is this pale, and you call this fine? I grabbed her hand. I want to transfer hospitals. She looked at me, not asking why. My mom was never one for many words. She just stared at me for 3 seconds, then turned to Jiang Nan. What do I need to sign? Jiang Nan said, Auntie, Gigi is fully conscious. She can sign herself. Just help prepare her clothes and find a caregiver. Okay. Lu Wenju showed up half an hour later. By then, Jiang Nan was already at the medical records office, and Xiao Ju was helping me organize the 4 lines. The ambulance was arranged, the new hospital confirmed, only waiting for the transfer doctor. Lu Wenju pushed the door open, his face dark and terrifying. Xiao Ju, who authorized the transfer. Xiao Ju's hand trembled. I looked up. I did. Lu Wenju turned to me. Lin Jiji, do you even know what condition you're in? You just came back from death's door. If something goes wrong during the transfer, who's taking responsibility? I am, you, he. Let out a bitter laugh. What are you going to take responsibility with? Gambling with your life against me. I stared at him. My life was already gambled away by you 3 days ago. The room fell dead silent. Lu Wenchu's anger was pinned down by her words, stuck in his throat. My mother stood to the side, her face turning cold. What do you mean? Lu Wenju immediately said, Mom, Ji just woke up, she's unstable, and she's been listening to gossip. My daughter almost died. My mother's voice trembled. What's wrong with her asking a few questions? Lu Wenju rubbed his brow, as if holding back. I'm not saying she can't ask, I'm afraid she's being misled. The rescue scene was complicated, an outsider wouldn't understand. I smiled, so I'll have someone who does understand look into it. Lu Wenju glanced at the documents on the bedside table. When he saw Jiang Nan's business card, his face darkened further. You hired a lawyer? Yeah, over a misunderstanding. Like this. I slowly sat up a little. The wound hurt so much that sweat beaded on my forehead. My mother immediately steadied me. Don't move. I stared at Lu Wenju, enunciating every word. I had a massive hemorrhage. You redirected my blood supply. I survived only because a stranger donated blood on the spot. And you call that a misunderstanding? Lu Wenchu's Adam's apple bobbed. He didn't refute it. My mother's hand froze on my shoulder. She turned to look at Lu Wenju, her gaze turning unfamiliar. Is what she said true? Lu Wenju was silent for a moment. Both sides were in critical condition at the time. I could only make the most medically reasonable judgment. My mother suddenly raised her hand and slapped him hard across the face. The sound was sharp. Xiao Ju flinched and stepped back. Lu Wenchu's face was turned to the side. He didn't move for a long time. My mother sobbed and cursed. She's your wife. She was lying on the operating table waiting for blood. How could you do this? Lu Wenju closed his eyes. Mom, a doctor can't just look at personal relationships. Then why did you tell her before you passed out that you'd mobilize the entire hospital's resources to save her? My mother pressed. Since you're so fair, why didn't you tell her you were going to give those resources to someone else? Lu Wenju didn't answer. Of course he wouldn't, because that wasn't fairness. That was a choice, I said softly. Mom, don't talk to him anymore. My mother turned her head, tears still falling. I said, I want to leave. She immediately wiped away her tears. Okay, Mom will take you away. Lu Wenju reached out to block us. Gigi, You can't leave. I looked at his hand. That hand had saved many people, it had pushed open many operating room doors, now it was blocking my hospital bed, not blocking danger. Blocking the path for me to leave him. Move, I said, you're not thinking clearly right now. I'm thinking very clearly. I gestured for Xiao Ju to open the drawer beside the bed, more clearly than ever. Inside the drawer were my phone, my ID, and a small jewelry pouch. Inside it was my wedding ring. Right in front of Lu Wenju, I took the ring out, because I had lost so much weight. The ring slid off my ring finger with almost no resistance. I placed it on the bedside table. Lu Wenju. From now on, I will no longer accept any arrangements from your hospital under the identity of the director's wife. Lu Wenju's expression changed. Do you have to make such a big deal out of this? I'm not the one making a big deal, I said. You already made it a big deal when you abandoned me on the operating table. He stared at me, a flicker of panic finally showing in his eyes. Gigi, Ingxue was really in danger at that time. She was hurt because of me before. I owe her. You owe her. So you pay with my blood. He choked. My mother was shaking with rage. Lu, do you have no shame? Lu Wenju said in a low voice. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I asked. You think that because I'm your wife, I'll understand. You think that because I love you, I can endure it. You think that after I woke up, as long as you explained a few words, I would swallow this too, just like before. His eyes trembled. I knew I had hit the mark. We had been married for 7 years. Before Chen Ingxue returned, I always thought Lu Wenju and I were just an ordinary couple who spent more time apart than together. He was busy, and I understood. He was tired, and I backed off. When he wanted to open a hospital, I used my pre-marriage savings to help him with cash flow. When his charity projects ran out of funds, I went to foundations and corporate donors to raise money. He stood on stage accepting awards, while I stood in the crowd handling patient complaints for him. Everyone said the hospital director married a good wife, and even I believed it. Until now, I realized what a good wife really meant. Someone who could be sacrificed. The transfer doctor arrived. Jiang Nan was back too. Her face was cold. The medical records office refused to copy the complete transfusion logs, saying it requires the director's approval. Lu Wenju looked at her. Attorney Jiang, that's hospital protocol. Jiang Nan smiled. Director Lu. A patient applying to seal their medical records is also protocol. I've already submitted a written application and contacted the healthcare department's medical dispute mediation window. Please make sure your hospital preserves the emergency records from 2:00 a.m. to 5:00 a.m. on March 17, the blood bank allocation logs, and the hallway surveillance footage. Lu Wenju's face went completely pale. He turned to me. Gigi, do you really want to do this? I asked the nurse to help me onto the transfer bed. As I passed by him, I paused. Lu Wenju, when you were saving Chen Ingxue, did you ever think about whether I would hurt too? His lips moved, but no words came out. I was wheeled toward the elevator. At the end of the hallway, the VIP room door was half open. Chen Ingxue sat on the bed in her hospital gown, her face pale, Lu Wenju's jacket draped over her shoulders. She heard the commotion, looked up, and her eyes first showed surprise, then quickly filled with tears. She called out softly, "Jia." I didn't stop. Her voice came from behind me. I'm sorry, I didn't know this would happen. Lu Wenju instinctively turned to look at her. That one look made me completely give up. As the elevator doors closed, I saw him standing in the middle of the hallway, with me on one side and Chen Ingxue on the other. He didn't chase after me. He chose to stay on that side again. I closed my eyes and said to Jiang Nan, "Help me prepare the divorce papers." Jiang Nan held my hand. Should have been prepared long ago. On the first night after the transfer, the pain kept me almost awake. The new hospital's ward wasn't as luxurious as Lu Wenju's. The curtains were light gray, there was an old floor lamp in the corner, and the nurse walked softly, but I slept peacefully because Lu Wenju wasn't here. At 4:00 a.m., I woke up from the wound pain, grabbed my phone, and found 27 missed calls, all from Lu Wenju, and over a dozen messages. Gigi, pick up. You can't be stubborn with your body right now. I've already told the medical records office to prepare the documents, but don't go to the media or let the lawyer escalate things. Ingxue is very emotional. She keeps saying she's sorry to you. We need to talk. The last one was at 3:57 am. I'm waiting for you at home. I stared at those words and suddenly felt like laughing. Home, he probably still thought that home was our mutual retreat. But from the moment I lay on the operating table waiting for blood that never came, I no longer had a home. In the morning, Jiang Nan took 2 movers to the wedding house Lu Wenju and I shared. I didn't go. I sat on the hospital bed, watching the house I'd lived in for 7 years through a video call. The living room was still the same. On the wall hung Lu Wenju's award photos, him in a suit on stage, with the dark grey tie I picked out for him beside him. In the photos, I stood in the corner, smiling gently. The mover asked, "Ms. Lin, what should we move?" I said. The books on the 2nd to 5th shelves of the left bookcase in the study, my clothes in the right cabinet of the walk-in closet, my documents and old photo albums in the bedside drawer of the master bedroom. The kitchen stays. Jiang Nan walked into the walk-in closet with her phone, the camera sweeping past a row of men's suits. My clothes only took up 1/3 of the right side before the wedding. I loved buying pretty dresses after the wedding. Lu Wenju always said the hospital setting called for composure, and my wardrobe slowly turned into black, white, and grey. I looked at those clothes and suddenly felt like I didn't need any of them. Just take the documents and a few everyday outfits, I said. Donate the rest. Jiang Nan paused. You sure? Sure. She didn't argue. In the master bedroom's nightstand drawer, there was a velvet box containing the vow cards Lu Wenju and I exchanged at our wedding. Jiang Nan opened it, glanced at it, and cursed. I said, "Burn it." You sure? Yeah. Jiang Nan closed it. Burning it's too easy for him. I'll keep it as evidence. I couldn't help but laugh. What kind of evidence are vows? Proof that he was once human. I laughed until the pain from my wound made me wince. My mother immediately set down her water glass. Stop laughing. I nodded. Halfway through the move, Jiang Nan found a locked drawer in the study. Password, my birthday. She entered it, and the drawer opened. Inside was a stack of documents, the prenuptial property agreement, early payment records for the hospital's charity fund, a private guarantee I'd made for Lu Wenju on a piece of equipment procurement, and a few old bank account statements. I'd kept all of this, not to guard against him, but out of work habit. Someone in medical compliance knows better than anyone to leave a trail. In the end, what saved me wasn't love, but a habit I never abandoned. Jiang Nan photographed each document. We're taking all of this, I said. There's also the safe. The safe was built into the study wall. Its code our wedding anniversary. Inside were property deeds, car titles, some jewelry, and an old USB drive. That USB drive held a backup of the hospital's early founding materials, project plans I'd written for Lu Wenju, foundation cooperation agreements, lists of patients who'd received aid. Looking at it, a dull ache settled in my chest. Back then, I genuinely believed we were doing something good. Lu Wenju saved lives, and I held down the fort behind him. While he fought death in the operating room, I fought time in the office, against money, procedures, complaints, and family negotiations. We used to be partners, shoulder to shoulder. Then, at some point, he stepped into the spotlight, and I was left in the shadows. Later, when Chen Yingxue came back, he didn't even want to leave me a place in the shadows. At 5 in the afternoon, Jiang Nan finished the move. She placed the wedding ring on the master bedroom's nightstand, with the divorce agreement underneath it. Next to the agreement was a list of evidence. Item 1. Application to seal the medical records from the emergency rescue on March 17 at 3 a.m. Item 2. Request for the blood transfusion. Department's allocation records. Item 3. Pending investigation into Lu Wenju and Chen Yingxue's relationship and resource exchanges. Item 4. Detailed breakdown of marital assets and hospital charity fund advance payments. Item 5. Recording of Lu Wenju's conversation in the hospital room. Jiang Nan asked me, "Any last words to leave?" I thought for a moment. "Write one sentence." "What?" "Lu Wenju, explain whether you considered me your wife when you signed off on redirecting the blood supply." Jiang Nan wrote it down and placed the paper neatly. After the video call ended, I leaned against the headboard, too exhausted to lift a finger. My mother peeled an apple and handed it to me. "Have you really decided?" I nodded. She was silent for a moment, then said, "Mom won't try to talk you out of it. When you were little, you'd fall down, cry twice, and get back up. But as you grew up, you started worrying too much about making things hard for others. Gigi, you can't always make it easy for everyone else. My eyes finally burned. Mom, am I that stupid? She stroked my head. No, you're not stupid, you just believed in him. I closed my eyes. Believing the wrong person isn't a sin, not waking up from it is. At 9 in the evening, Lu Wenju came home. Jiang Nan had the property management send me the door camera footage in advance. In the video, Lu Wenju entered the code and walked in, carrying a thermal bag, probably because he'd finally remembered that I'd need soup. After waking up, he was calm when he walked in. First, he changed his shoes, placed the insulated bag on the dining table, then called out, "Gigi," no answer. He walked into the master bedroom. 3 seconds later, he rushed out. He opened the walk-in closet, the study, the safe, then sprinted back to the living room. That face, always so composed and self-controlled, finally cracked. He called me. I didn't answer. Then he called Jiang Nan. Jiang Nan picked up, speaker on. Lu Wenju's voice was laced with suppressed fury. "Where did you take Gigi?" Jiang Nan sneered. "Director Lu. She left on her own. Adults have the freedom to move. It's not something a husband gets to control. She's not recovered yet. Exactly why she needs to stay far away from you." Lu Wenju's breathing was heavy. "Put her on the phone." I gestured for Jiang Nan to bring the phone closer. I spoke. "Did you see the agreement?" Silence on the other end. After a long pause, Lu Wenju said, "Lin Gigi, do you really have to go this far?" I said, "It's not me going this far. It's you who signed that authorization form first." His voice dropped. "I'll explain." "Fine," I said, "put it in writing and give it to my lawyer. We're husband and wife, not for much longer." Lu Wenju seemed stung by those words. "I won't agree to the divorce." I stared out at the night through the window. "I don't need your agreement right now. Mediation, lawsuit, separation, evidence. I can go through all the steps. Gigi, don't push me." I laughed. "Lu Wenju, when I was lying on the operating table waiting for blood, did you push me?" The line went dead silent. I moved the phone away and nodded at Jiang Nan. She hung up. On the surveillance feed, Lu Wenju stood in the middle of the living room, then suddenly spun around and slammed the insulated bag onto the floor. Soup splattered everywhere. He crouched down, hand pressed to his forehead, as if he finally realized, this time, I wouldn't clean up his mess. But I didn't feel sorry anymore. I only felt relief. On the third day at the new hospital, my condition stabilized a bit. The wound still hurt. 2 steps left me breathless, my face pale as paper, but my mind had never been clearer. When Jiang Nan brought the first batch of documents, I was sitting on the hospital bed practicing leg lifts. The rehab therapist said my leg soft tissue damage was severe and recovery would be slow. I was drenched in sweat from the pain. But I didn't stop. My body is mine. My life is mine. I won't hand it over to anyone again. Jiang Nan placed the file folder on the bedside tray. "Prepare yourself first." I wiped my sweat. "Go ahead." She opened the file. "These are the basic medical records obtained through the patient's own application. The complete records are still under seal. Your intraoperative blood loss was severe. The first blood transfusion request was at 2:47 a.m. The blood bank confirmed 4 units of matched suspended red blood cells, plus 2 units of fresh frozen plasma being prepared." I nodded. These terms weren't foreign to me, but at 3:12 a.m., the transfusion log shows 2 units of red blood cells were redirected to VIP operating room 3. I asked, "Chening Xue?" "Yes." Jiang Nan pushed the photocopy in front of me. On that paper, the reason for the redirection read, "Emergency rescue authorized by Lu Wenju," his signature. I stared at those 3 characters, suddenly remembering years ago when he first taught me to recognize his surgical signature. He said a doctor's signature had to be fast because there's no time for neat strokes during a rescue. I laughed at his ugly handwriting back then. He said, "Ugly is fine, as long as it saves lives." But now, his handwriting saved Chening Xue and nearly cost me mine. Jiang Nan looked at me. "There's more." She pulled out another page. At 3:28 a.m., your blood pressure dropped. The anesthesia record notes continue requesting blood transfusion, but the blood bank was out of stock. Later, a relative of a car accident victim in the ER donated blood on the spot, and it was only used after passing screening. I closed my eyes. So if that person hadn't donated blood, I would have died. Jiang Nan stayed silent. The answer didn't need to be spoken. Her mother sat beside her, the cup in her hand trembling non-stop. Suddenly, she stood up and rushed into the bathroom, where muffled sobs quickly followed. I didn't move. I was afraid that if I moved, I'd shatter too. Jiangnan whispered. Gigi, you can cry. I shook my head. Crying would pull on the wound. She cursed under her breath. You really are. I forced a smile. Go on, she sighed. Director Han from the blood transfusion department is willing to see you, but he's cautious. After all, Lu Wenju is the hospital director. He doesn't want to be accused of infighting. I understand, but he said one thing. Jiang Nan looked at me. That night, both sides were in danger, but based on the severity of the condition and the blood type matching sequence. Your priority shouldn't have been pushed back. I lifted my eyes. Is he willing to testify? Not sure yet, but he's willing to go through the official process and accept an investigation. That was enough. Most of the time, the so-called truth doesn't need a hero to charge in and shout. It just needs someone who won't stay silent when it's time to speak. In the afternoon, Director Han arrived. He wore an ordinary jacket, no white coat, and stood in the hallway for a long time before entering. I had the nurse raise the head of my bed. Director Han, I said first, thank you for agreeing to see me. He looked at me, his expression complicated. Professor Lin, you once fought for equipment funding for our blood transfusion department. I smiled faintly. Back then, I thought if the procedures were perfected, everyone would be treated fairly. Director Han's face showed a trace of discomfort. He sat down, clasping his hands together. I can't give you internal documents privately, but if the authorities investigate, I'll tell the truth. I only want the facts. Ask. That night, the blood transferred to Cheningshue. Was it originally matched to my emergency stock? Director Han paused. Procedurally, blood doesn't belong to any individual, but at the time, in the emergency system, your application was submitted first, and the blood bank prepared the units based on your emergency needs. Why was it transferred away? The hospital director called personally. He said the VIP operating room 3 was equally urgent and ordered 2 units to be sent there first. Did you warn him about my risk? Director Han pressed his lips together. I did. What did he say? He lowered his head. He said you could still hold on with another round of fluid resuscitation. But Miss Chen's underlying conditions were worse. She couldn't wait. I nodded. Anything else? Director Han glanced at me, as if reluctant. I said, please, go on. He said, his voice dropped. Lin Jiji is my wife. I know her physical condition. She'll understand. The room fell silent. I could even hear the drip of the four, drop by drop, like the blood I lost that day. I slowly smiled. So that line, she'll understand, wasn't an excuse Lu Wenju made up afterward. It was the verdict he passed on me right there. Because I was his wife, I was supposed to understand. Because I loved him, I was supposed to step back. Because I'd always held on through the years, he thought I could hold on this time. 2. Director Han stood up. Professor Lin, I'm sorry, you weren't the one who signed off on this, but I didn't stop it. You couldn't stop the hospital director, I said, but when the investigation comes, I hope you won't back down again. He nodded solemnly. After Director Han left, Jiang Nan put away the voice recorder. This can't be used directly as illegal evidence, but it helps us piece together the clues. The official testimony has to go through proper channels. I know. I looked out the window. This wasn't my first time facing a medical dispute. In the past, I stood on the hospital's side, understanding the doctor's helplessness, the limits of resources, the chaos of emergency rescues, but understanding isn't the same as condoning. A doctor can make tough calls in critical moments, but they cannot, based on favoritism, old ties, or personal gain, default a patient into the category of expendable, nor can they, afterward, use the phrase she'll understand to shove the sacrificed person back into silence. That evening, Lu Wenju came again. He was blocked outside the ward. The new hospital had a visitor registration system. Jiang Nan had given prior instructions. No one enters without my permission. He stood outside the glass door and called me. I answered. His voice was hoarse. Let's meet. No need. Did Director Han come to see you? I didn't deny it. His tone simmered with anger. You're forcing the hospital staff to pick sides now. I'm investigating why I almost died. you didn't die." The words slipped out, and both ends of the line fell silent. Lu Wenju seemed to realize his mistake. His breathing turned ragged. "I didn't mean it that way." Calmly, I said, "But that's exactly what you think. You didn't die, so don't pursue it. You didn't die. So I can still explain. You didn't die, so Chen Yingxue was just saved. No need to make a scene." I stared at my pale hand, suddenly wanting to ask him, what if I had died? But I didn't ask, because the answer no longer mattered. Lu Wenju lowered his voice. "Gigi, I really had no choice back then. If Yingxue didn't get the transfusion, she'd go into shock immediately. Your situation was dangerous. But I judged you could hold on. I'm a doctor. I couldn't just watch her die." "Then why couldn't you watch me die?" "You won't die," he shot back. "I won't let you die." I let out a bitter laugh. "How can you be so sure?" He fell silent. I answered for him. "Because I'm Lin. Gigi. Because I've endured everything all these years. Held on through everything. Because you think I'm tough, that I'm sensible, that even if I wake up, I won't really leave you." Only breathing remained on the line. I continued, "Lu Wenju, I've already got the blood allocation authorization." His voice tightened. "What do you want? Divorce? Anything but that. A medical complaint." "Lin Gigi." He finally lost control. "Do you know this will ruin me?" I closed my eyes. "Lu Wenju, when you signed that paper, did you know it would ruin me?" He said nothing. I hung up outside the glass door. Lu Wenju still stood there. In the past, I dreaded seeing him tired. Now, I just felt it was about time he got exhausted once. Chen Yingxue called me on the morning of the 5th day. I had just finished changing my bandages, pain soaking my back in sweat. My mother had gone downstairs to buy porridge. Jiang Nan was at the courthouse submitting documents. The ward was empty. When the unfamiliar number rang, I almost didn't answer, but seeing the area code, a landline near Lu Wenchu's hospital, I changed my mind. I hit record and picked up. A soft breath came through first, then a frail female voice. "Ji Jie, it's me, Yingxue." I leaned back on the pillow, silent. She sounded like she'd been crying. Her voice choked. "I know you don't want to hear my explanation, but I really didn't know things would turn out like this. Wenju Ji never told me those blood units were diverted from you. Wenju Ji, that title, she'd never changed it since returning from abroad. The first time I heard it, I even laughed and asked Lu Wenju, "She always calls you that." He said, "Just a habit, don't overthink it." Back then, I didn't. Now, I realize many things left traces. I just chose to explain them away for him. "How did you get this number?" I asked. Chen Yingxue faltered. "After I moved into the new hospital, I changed to a temporary ward and had the nurse station block all non-family visits. Few people had my number," she quickly said. "I asked Brother Wenchu's assistant for it. I just wanted to apologize to you." "Before you apologize, let's get this straight." My voice was flat. "When did you find out I was also in the emergency room?" She paused. "I only found out after I woke up." "When exactly after you woke up?" "The next day." "Then who told you that the blood wasn't transferred from my side?" Her breath hitched on the other end of the line. I chuckled. "Chen Yingxue, if you really didn't know, why did you start explaining it the moment you opened your mouth?" She finally stopped crying. After a few seconds, her voice dropped. "Sister Gigi, do you have to be so aggressive? I almost died too." "So what?" "So no matter how Brother Wenju chose back then, it was to save lives. Was it to save lives, or to save you?" She whispered. "Is there a difference?" Yes, there was a huge difference. If it were just about saving lives, Lu Wenju could have followed protocol, assessed the conditions, and let the hospital's expert panel decide together. But he didn't. He signed off personally, redirected the blood personally, and pushed my risks aside, because the person on the other operating table was named Chen Yingxue. "You know the difference," I said. Chen Yingxue started crying again. "I admit, after I woke up and heard you were in bad shape, I felt guilty. But Sister Gigi, you've been Brother Wenchu's wife for 7 years. You've had him for 7 years. I just wanted to survive. What did I do wrong?" I stared at the ceiling. That sentence finally revealed her true colors. Asterisk, you've had him for 7 years. Asterisk, so what if you give this one up? You're the wife, so you should be magnanimous. You've already survived, so stop digging. I asked softly. "Chen Yingxue, do you think my life is also part of the marriage assets, something I can share with you?" she hurriedly said. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Her crying grew heavier. I just hope you don't destroy Brother Wenju. He went 3 days and 3 nights without sleep to save both of us. He's so proud, and now you've driven him to the point where he's afraid to even come back to the hospital. This is between you two as a couple. Why drag the hospital into it? I gripped the phone and slowly sat up straight. The wound ached so badly that sweat beaded on my forehead, but my voice was steady, because he used his authority as the hospital director to redirect the emergency resources from me. Chen Yingxue fell silent. I pressed on. Who arranged for you to stay in VIP room 3? The hospital arranged it. Who covered your treatment costs? Her breathing grew ragged. After you returned to the country, did Lu Wenju reduce some of your fees under the guise of public charity? That's hospital policy. I wrote that policy. I cut her off. The recipients need to submit proof of financial hardship, medical evaluations, and fund reviews. Chen Yingxue, you're the eldest daughter of the Chen family. Which condition do you meet? The line went completely silent. I heard her fingernails scraping against something, like she was clutching the bedsheet in panic. She hadn't expected me to look into this. She hadn't expected me to remember that policy either. Sister Gigi, she finally spoke. Her voice colder now. All you're doing is making Brother Wenju more exhausted. I laughed. What do I care if he's exhausted or not? You're still husband and wife. Not for long. She was clearly stunned. You really want a divorce? What else? I countered. Keep being a wife whose blood supply can be diverted at any moment. Chen Yingxue was silent for a moment, then whispered, but Brother Wenju won't agree. The words were soft, but carried a hint of certainty. I asked, what makes you so sure he won't agree? She said, because he knows you can't live without him. I closed my eyes. At that moment, I finally knew. Chen Yingxue was no innocent patient. She saw it more clearly than anyone. She knew how I had loved Lu Wenju in the past, knew how I had yielded, knew how I had always been the one to mend the cracks after every fight. So she dared to lie on that hospital bed and cry, dared to say I just want to live and corner everyone into a moral low ground. I wasn't angry. I just felt dirty. Chen Yingxue, I said, you'll regret this phone call. She didn't have time to answer before the ward door burst open. Lu Wenju stood in the doorway, his face dark. He had clearly rushed over. No white coat, sleeves rolled halfway up his shirt. Who are you talking to? He asked. I turned my phone toward him. The speaker was still on. Chen Yingxue's breathing crackled through. Lu Wenshu's eyes shifted. Yingxue, a sob erupted from the other end. Wenshuji. I just wanted to apologize to Jie, but she seems to have misunderstood me. Lu Wenju looked at me, his brow furrowing. Gigi, she's not well either. Why provoke her? I almost laughed. He didn't even ask what happened. Chen Yingxue cried. And he assumed I was the one who pushed her. I set the phone on the nightstand. Lu Wenju. Perfect timing. He stepped closer. I'm not here to fight. Yingxue's blood pressure just dropped. The doctor said she can't take emotional stress. If you have any resentment, take it out on me. Don't make things hard for her. She called me, I said. She wanted to apologize. Did she apologize? Lu Wenju froze. I hit play on the recording I just made. Chen Yingxue's voice spilled out. You're already Wenshuji's wife. You've had him for 7 years. I just want to live. What did I do wrong? In the ward, Lu Wenshu's face shifted slightly. I kept playing, but Wenshuji won't agree, because he knows you can't live without him. Chen Yingxue's voice turned shrill on the phone. Hey Jie, are you recording this? I stopped the recording. Yeah, I said, from the moment I woke up, every time you came to me, I recorded it. Lu Wenju stared at me. When did you become like this? I looked at him and smiled slowly. From the moment you signed off on taking my blood, his expression flinched like he'd been stabbed. Chen Yingxue was still crying on the phone. Wenshuji, I didn't mean it that way. I'm just so scared. Lu Wenju instinctively grabbed the phone. Yingxue, don't cry, I'll come over in a bit. I watched him move, and the last ripple in my heart went still. He was always like this. The moment Chen Yingxue shed a tear, he turned away. Lu Wenju, I said. He stopped. I pointed at the door. Take it outside. My ward isn't a place to comfort her. His eyes darkened. Lin Jiji, do you have to be so sharp? I'm just worried about her blood pressure, I said calmly. After all, you moved my blood for her. Lu Wenshu's face turned ashen. He gripped the phone and walked out. The door clicked shut. And I sent another recording to Jiang Nan with a note, check Chen Yingshua's medical aid application. Jiang Nan replied fast, got it. Finally caught her tail. I sank back into the pillow, pain stabbing through me with every breath, but my mind was steady. Chen Yingshua's tears had saved her once, they wouldn't save her again. The Lu family came knocking a week later, to be precise. They didn't come to the hospital first, they called my mother. Lu's mother sobbed on the phone like she'd been wronged beyond measure. In-laws, what couple doesn't fight? Gigi is demanding a divorce now, hiring lawyers to investigate the hospital. Isn't she trying to destroy Wenju, his saved so many lives over the years? How can one emergency decision ruin his career? My mother listened, then replied with one line, my daughter was almost ruined by him too. Then she hung up. Madame Lu wasn't giving up, she got Mr. Lu to step in, saying the Lu family was hosting a family dinner and wanted me to come clear things up. Jiang Nan almost laughed out loud, you just got out of bed, and they want you at a family dinner. I said, I'm going. My mother immediately objected, no, your body can't handle it. I can handle it. I looked at Jiang Nan, what they want to talk about isn't feelings, it's impact. Perfect timing, I've got something to show them too. Jiang Nan thought for a moment, I'll go with you. No, I said, wait outside for me, let them talk family business first, once they've said their piece. You come in. She raised an eyebrow. All right, going big, not going big. I looked down at the scar from the 4-needle on my wrist, collecting debts. The Lu family villa looked the same as always in the 7 years I'd married into the Lu family. Every holiday I'd come here to cook, entertain guests, and take care of the elders. Madame Lu loved face, always inviting relatives over, watching me bustle around, then smiling and telling others, Gigi is so sensible. She never makes me worry. Back then, I thought that was praise. Later, I realized sensible just meant they didn't have to feel sorry for me. This time, I came in a wheelchair. All the Lu relatives were there. Madame Lu sat at the head of the table, eyes red and swollen. Mr. Lu had a stern face. Lu Wenju stood by the window, and when he saw me being pushed in by the nurse, his brow immediately furrowed. How did you get so thin? I didn't answer. His concern came too late. It sounded like empty courtesy. Chen Yingxue wasn't there, but her presence was heavy. On the coffee table lay a draft statement. It basically said that Lu Wenju and I had a misunderstanding over the rescue details, which had now been resolved through communication. There was no medical violation, and no one would pursue the hospital's responsibility. I saw that statement and laughed. Madame Lu immediately snapped, Gigi, what are you laughing at? Look at the mess you've made of this family. Wenju hasn't eaten or slept well for days. The hospital's been hit with complaints. Doesn't that bother you at all? I asked, when I was lying on the operating table waiting for blood. Did it bother you? Madame Lu's face stiffened. Mr. Lu said in a low voice, Gigi, what's done is done. You're fine now, aren't you? When a husband and wife live together, you can't just fixate on one thing. I almost died, I said. Mr. Lu frowned. Don't keep throwing dye around. Wenju is a doctor, he has his judgment. You've worked in hospitals too, you should understand the complexity of emergency rescues. Understanding again, I'd heard that word so much my ears were numb. I nodded. Understanding the complexity of a rescue doesn't mean understanding a husband transferring his wife's rescue resources to his white moonlight, a relative muttered under her breath. You can't say it like that. Miss Chen is alive too. I looked at her. So my life isn't. She shut up immediately. Madame Lu slapped the table. Gigi, you weren't like this before. You used to consider the bigger picture. How did you become so petty? Before, I considered the bigger picture because I thought I was part of it. I lifted my eyes. Turns out I wasn't. Lu Wenju finally spoke. Mom, stop. Madame Lu was frantic. How can I stop? She's trying to ruin your future now. Wenju, you're the best doctor in the city. You can't let domestic nonsense drag you down. I looked at Lu Wenju. Do you think this is domestic nonsense? He was silent. I understood he did too. In their eyes, my life was domestic nonsense. Chen Yingshua's life was a medical judgment. I signaled the nurse to hand me my bag. Inside was a stack of documents. I placed the first one on the table. This is the charity fund bridging loans I paid for Lu Wenshu's hospital in the first 3 years of our marriage. Total, 1,860,000 yuan. Madame Lu's face shifted slightly. I put down the second one. This is the personal loan guarantee I made with my pre-marriage savings to cover the equipment procurement shortfall when the hospital was first founded. Mr. Liu sat up straight. The third one, this was the renovation cost for the Liu family villa last year. Liu Wenju said the hospital was short on funds. So I fronted the money. Mother Liu snapped, that's family business. What are you bringing it up for now? Settling accounts. I placed the final document next to the draft statement. From today, I stop all personal advances for Liu Wenju and the hospital's charity projects, for what's already been paid. Attorney Jiang will recover it based on receipts, the vehicles and supplementary credit card still under my name that the Liu family is using must be returned within 3 days, otherwise, I'll call the police. The living room fell dead silent. Mother Liu's voice turned shrill. Are you insane? The hospital fund is about to close its quarterly accounts. Cutting off the money now is going to crush Wenju. I looked at her. Didn't you just say this was family business? Her face turned green with rage. Father Liu couldn't sit still either. Gigi, we can talk about the money slowly. You can't be this ruthless. When I nearly died, you told me not to fixate on one thing. Now it's about money, and you're in a hurry. Liu Wenju walked over, lowering his voice. Lin Gigi, do you have to do this in front of all the relatives? You didn't avoid the entire process when you signed the emergency consent form. His Adam's apple bobbed. I told you, that was a medical judgment. Fine. I pulled out a voice recorder and placed it on the table. Then say it again in front of your parents and relatives. On March 17th, at 3 a.m., you redirected the 2 units of blood prepared for my emergency surgery to Chen Yingxue because her condition had higher priority than mine. It had nothing to do with personal relationships, nor with the Chen family's investment commitment to the hospital. Liu Wenxu's face changed instantly. Father Liu whipped his head toward him. What Chen family investment commitment? I smiled. So, the Liu family didn't know everything. Liu Wenju stared at me. You investigated me. I investigated why I almost died. I pulled out a copy of Chen Yingxue's medical charity fund application. During Chen Yingxue's hospitalization, part of her expenses were covered by the hospital's charity relief. On the application form, the recommender was Liu Wenju. The review approval was a special directive from the hospital director, Liu Wenju. Can you explain why the eldest daughter of the Chen family qualifies for financial hardship relief? Mother Liu's face went completely white. The relatives began whispering among themselves. Liu Wenju reached for the documents. I pressed them down. Don't rush, just copies. The originals and electronic records have already been sealed by Attorney Jiang. His eyes finally showed panic, not because I was heartbroken, not because I was divorcing him, but because he knew, once this was investigated, it wouldn't just be a marital conflict. Mother Liu lunged at me, grabbing my hand. Gigi, if I've ever wronged you, take it out on me. Wenju can't go down. He's the Liu family's hope. I looked at her grip on my wrist. The needle mark was still there. I gently pulled my hand back. I'm someone's daughter too. Mother Liu froze. I pushed my wheelchair toward the door. Liu Wenju chased after me to the entrance. Gigi, his voice finally softened. Don't go yet. Let's talk alone. I stopped and turned to look at him. Liu Wenju. Every time you say let's talk alone, you want me to back down. His lips were pale. I said, not this time. Outside, Jiang Nan leaned against the car, file bag in hand. She saw me and smiled. Done collecting? I nodded. Half, and the other half. I looked back at the brightly lit Liu family villa. I'll collect it at the hearing, Liu Wenshu's first real panic came the day after the charity fund was suspended. That morning, the hospital finance department called him 7 times. The hospital was preparing its quarterly report. The relief funds meant for 3 critically ill children hadn't arrived. For the past few years, these temporary gaps were always covered by me first, then reimbursed when corporate donations came in. The finance team was used to calling me. The patients' families were used to calling me too. Even Liu Wenju had gotten used to it, so when I had Jiang Nan send out an official notice, explicitly halting all personal advances and demanding the hospital recalculate the fees wrongfully waived for Chen Yingxue, the entire system felt like a brick had been pulled from its foundation. I wasn't at the hospital, but I could picture Liu Wenju standing in his office. First, he'd frown, thinking I was making a mountain out of a molehill. Then he'd call me, only to find I wouldn't pick up. He'd have his assistant contact Jiang Nan, only to be shut down with a curt, "Please follow the written procedure." Finally, he'd realize this time I wasn't threatening him with divorce. I was methodically stripping away everything he'd once taken for granted as his. At 10 in the morning, the hospital's finance director messaged me, "Professor Lin, can we make an exception for the relief fund? 3 kids are in critical condition." I stared at it for a long time. My chest felt tight. Those children were innocent. I had built that relief fund myself, so ordinary patients wouldn't have to beg on their knees in the hospital corridors for money. But I also knew that if I kept covering for Lu Wenju, he'd never learn where the line was. I replied, "Please activate the special reserve fund through the hospital's standard procedure. If the reserve is insufficient, provide a breakdown of where the funds went. For the waivers involving Chen Yingxue, please publish them for public review simultaneously." There was no reply. Half an hour later, Lu Wenju called. I answered. His first words were, "Jiji, the kids are innocent." I laughed. "So you know what innocent means?" Silence on the other end. His voice was strained. "You built that relief fund with your own hands. Can you bear to see it shut down?" "The fund won't shut down. What stops is me personally paying to plug your holes. The hospital's cash flow is tight right now. Pulling your funding suddenly will hurt the patients." Suddenly, I shot back. I gave the finance department 3 written warnings not to base the program's operation on my personal advances. "Did you sign off on them?" He said nothing. Of course he had. He just never took them seriously. I continued. "I also warned you that Chen Yingxue didn't qualify for the relief waivers. What was your response?" Lu Wenxu's voice dropped. "Back then, Yingxue had just returned home. She wasn't well. You said she had no one to rely on." I cut him off. "But her father owns 2 companies. She was in a VIP suite with a private nurse costing 800 a day." Lu Wenju. "Using money meant to save the poor to buy yourself favors. Don't you find that laughable?" His breathing grew heavier. "I'll make it up." "With what?" "My personal account." "Fine," I said. "Make sure it goes through the public ledger, with a clear note, 'Don't make me cover for you again.'" Lu Wenju finally snapped. "Lin Jiji, do we have to talk like this?" "How did we used to talk?" I asked. "You'd say the hospital needed something, and I'd transfer the money. You'd say Yingxue was pitiful, and I'd stay silent. You'd say the rescue was complicated, and I was supposed to understand. That wasn't talking. That was me giving in, over and over." He went silent. I hung up, my chest heaving. My mother walked in with my medicine, frowning. "Him again?" "Yeah, stop answering." I nodded. But things didn't stop just because I stopped picking up that afternoon. Jiang Nan brought new news. The Chen family's so-called investment promise, basically empty. I looked up. "What do you mean?" Lu Wenju thought Chen Yingxue's father was going to invest in a rehabilitation center for the hospital, so he's been extra nice to her lately. But I checked the business registries and public projects. The Chen company's own cash flow is unstable. That investment was just an intention, no contract. I paused, then laughed. "So he pushed me into danger for a promise that never even landed." Jiang Nan sneered. "And old feelings." She slid several printed chat screenshots in front of me. "Between Chen Yingxue and Lu Wenju, screenshots from the source can't serve as formal evidence for now. But Jiang Nan got leads through proper channels. Chen Yingxue had shared parts of the chat history with mutual friends, bragging that Lu Wenju never says no to her." One message from Chen Yingxue read, "Brother Wenju, won't your wife be upset?" Lu Wenju replied, "She's sensible. She won't make a fuss." Another, "Would it be too much trouble for me to stay in the VIP ward? You're not well, don't overthink it." And then there was one, sent just 2 days before the car accident. Chen Yingxue said, "If that investment deal goes through, would you be happy?" Lu Wenju replied, "You coming back is enough." I stared at that last line for a long time. You coming back is enough then? What were these 7 years to me? Jiang Nan saw my face darken and put the screenshots away. "Don't look at them for now," I said. "Keep them. They might not hold up in court." "I know," I said, "but they'll keep me from going soft." Jiang Nan looked at me, her gaze softening a little. "Gee, can you still go soft?" I thought about it. "Yes." She frowned. I said, 7 years isn't 7 days. I'm not a machine. But going soft doesn't mean turning back." Jiang Nan nodded. "Now that sounds like something a human would say." That evening, Xiao Ju secretly messaged me. Madam, the hospital had a meeting today. The director ordered everyone not to discuss the rescue night privately, and said anyone leaking internal documents will be held accountable. I replied, protect yourself. Don't send any materials on your own. Wait for the official investigation. Xiaoju quickly responded, I know, but madam, I really feel sorry for you. If I had spoken up sooner that day. I typed, you have nothing to be sorry for. The one who should be saying sorry hasn't said a word yet. Xiaoju sent a crying emoji. A moment later, she added another message. Madam, Miss Chen was discharged from the hospital today. The director saw her off personally. I stared at those words, and felt surprisingly little. Lu Wenju personally seeing Chen Yingxue out of the hospital. It fit him perfectly. He always showed up when Chen Yingxue needed to be seen, and when I truly needed him, he was signing another authorization form that night. Lu Wenju didn't call again. I thought he'd finally backed off. Then at 9:30, I got a message from the property management. Lu Wenju had gone back to the wedding apartment. This time, he wasn't alone. In the surveillance footage, Chen Yingxue stood beside him, wearing a light-colored coat, her face still pale. She looked up at the door, like she was sizing up a position she was about to take over. Lu Wenju opened the door and let her in. I stared at the screen and suddenly laughed. Jiang Nan asked, what's so funny? I handed her my phone. After looking, she cursed, is he insane? You're not even divorced yet, and he's taking Chen Yingxue into the wedding apartment. I said, perfect timing. Perfect for what? That apartment was mine before the marriage. Jiang Nan froze. I pulled out a copy of the property deed. He's just been living there since we got married, so a lot of people assumed it was joint marital property. Jiang Nan's eyes lit up. Got it. I called the property manager, Manager Wang. Could you please confirm that the people currently entering Unit 22, Building 9 include, besides Lu Wenju, a non-owner? Correct. Manager Wang sounded awkward. MS, Lin, Mr. Lu brought her in. The property owner is me, Mr. Lu currently has no authorization from me to bring non-owners in to stay or reside. Please follow the owner's request and go to the unit to ask the other party to leave. Record everything. There was a 2-second silence on the line. Understood. 15 minutes later, the surveillance showed the property staff and security arriving. The door opened. Lu Wenchu's face was dark. Chen Yingxue stood behind him, her eyes red again. The property manager said politely, Mr. Lu, MS, Lin has requested that non-owner personnel leave. Lu Wenchu's voice was cold. This is my home. The property manager glanced at the record. The ownership is registered as MS, Lin's personal premarital asset. Chen Yingxue's face went pale. Watching Lu Wenju freeze on the screen, I felt for the first time that buying this apartment was worth every penny. He finally understood. I wasn't moving out of his home, I was kicking him out of mine. After the medical complaint was accepted, the hospital's internal investigation finally kicked off. Lu Wenju tried to stop it. First, he went to the hospital administration, claiming it was a marital dispute, not a medical violation. The administration wouldn't touch it. Then he went to the board, arguing that going public would damage the hospital's reputation. The board was more pragmatic. They only asked one question: is there a problem with the surveillance footage and the blood transfusion records or not? Lu Wenju couldn't answer. So the sealing of materials before the investigation meeting went smoother than I expected, not because they were fair, but because everyone was terrified of being dragged down with Lu Wenju. The day Jiang Nan accompanied me to the hospital, I could already walk short distances on my own. I didn't use a wheelchair, just a single cane. My mother worried I couldn't handle it and wanted to come. I refused. Mom, I'll go alone. She looked at me for a long time, then adjusted my scarf. Don't push yourself. If it hurts, sit down. I nodded. Walking into Lu Wenchu's hospital again felt like a lifetime ago. The reception desk in the lobby was something I'd helped design. On the wall, a charity project photo showed Lu Wenju and me at a mountain clinic. In it, I stood beside him, smiling, clean and trusting. Now I walked past that photo without stopping. Someone recognized me. Madam, she whispered. I looked at her. She immediately corrected herself. Professor Lin. I smiled. That title sounded much better than director's wife. The material review was arranged in the small conference room of the administration building. The hospital director, the head of medical affairs, Director Han from the blood transfusion department, legal counsel, and a third-party mediator were all present. Lu Wenju arrived last. When he pushed the door open, his eyes landed on me first. I wore a black dress, a grey coat over it. My face was still pale, but my makeup was neat. He stared at me for a few seconds, then said quietly, "You shouldn't be here now." I ignored him once the meeting started. The Medical Affairs Department presented the events of that night. Their wording was cautious. Ms. Lin Jiji was admitted to the emergency room on March 17 at around 2 a.m. due to a traffic accident, with conditions including splenic rupture and abdominal bleeding. At the same time, Ms. Chen Yingxue experienced sudden post-operative bleeding. The hospital's blood bank had limited stock, and the resuscitation team made an emergency allocation. Jiang Nan opened his notebook. "Please clarify, who made the decision for the allocation?" The head of medical affairs looked at Lu Wenju. Lu Wenju's face was expressionless. "I did," Jiang Nan continued. "Was there a joint evaluation by the hospital's expert panel at the time? It was an emergency. There was no time." Director Han lifted his head. Jiang Nan caught it. "Director Han, did you remind Director Lu at the time that Ms. Lin Jiji's blood transfusion request was submitted first and that she was at risk of ongoing blood loss?" Director Han paused for 2 seconds. "I did." A sharp intake of breath echoed in the room. Lu Wenju's gaze turned icy as he looked at Director Han. Director Han didn't flinch. "As the head of the blood transfusion department, I only stated the procedure and the risks." Jiang Nan nodded. "Thank you." Next came the transfusion records. The electronic system log appeared on the screen. 2:47 a.m. My blood transfusion request was submitted. 2:55 a.m. The blood bank confirmed availability of 4 units of red blood cells. 3:12 a.m. Lu Wenju used his director-level authority to modify the allocation, transferring 2 units to VIP operating room 3. Note: Chen Yingxue, emergency. Resuscitation. 3:28 a.m. My blood pressure dropped during surgery. Another transfusion request was submitted. 3:46 a.m. External emergency blood donation screening passed. Supplementary supply was provided. The timeline was crystal clear. I sat there, my fingers lightly tapping against my cane. So death had been this close to me, just 18 minutes away, just one bag of blood from a stranger away. Lu Wenju spoke. "Data can't be separated from on-site judgment." Chen Yingxue had coagulation abnormalities at the time, high risk from underlying conditions. If delayed, the consequences would have been irreversible. Jiang Nan asked, "And Lin Jiji's consequences? Were those reversible?" Lu Wenju frowned. "She ultimately pulled through." I looked up at him. "Lu Wenju, it was the first time I spoke in the meeting. Do you think that as long as I didn't die, you did nothing wrong?" He stared at me, his lips pressed into a tight line. "I didn't say that, but you've always meant it." The conference room fell silent. I gestured to Jiang Nan. "Play the surveillance footage." The hospital director's face shifted. "The footage involves the privacy of the resuscitation area. We need to be cautious." Jiang Nan cut him off. "We're only pulling the public corridor footage, no surgery scenes, and Ms. Lin has given her authorization." The third-party mediator added, "It can be played." The screen went black for a moment, then the corridor appeared. The timestamp read 3:09 a.m. outside the resuscitation room. Chaos reigned. A nurse ran from the blood bank, pushing a blood box. Director Han stood at the end of the hallway. On the phone, Lu Wenju stepped out of my operating room, pulling off his gloves, sweat dripping from his forehead. A doctor rushed over. "Director Lu, VIP room 3. Miss Chen's blood pressure is dropping fast. The blood bank says the blood requested for Teacher Lin just arrived." Lu Wenju asked, "What's Gigi's blood pressure now?" "Low, but stable for now." "And Chen Yingxue, worse." Director Han hurried over. "Director Lu, Teacher Lin is hemorrhaging continuously. The blood is already matched to her. Diverting it is high risk." Lu Wenju hesitated for less than 3 seconds, then he said, "Send it to Chen Yingxue first." Director Han's voice turned urgent. "Then what about Teacher Lin?" Lu Wenju's voice was heavy. "Continue volume expansion. Contact emergency blood donors. She's my wife. I know her. She'll understand." In the conference room, someone gasped on the screen. The nurse hesitated, clutching the blood box. "Director Lu, This, Lu Wenju snapped. Do as I say. In the footage, the blood box was wheeled down another corridor. The red light above my operating room door still blazed. I stared at that light, as if seeing myself lying inside 3 days ago, knowing nothing, still believing Lu Wenju would save me. The surveillance continued. At 3:29 a.m., the door to my operating room burst open. The anesthesiologist rushed out, shouting, blood pressures crashing. Where's the blood? The corridor erupted into chaos. Someone ran to the blood bank, someone made calls, someone contacted family for a blood donation, and Lu Wenju, he stood outside VIP room 3's operating door, staring at it, until someone inside said, Miss Chen's blood pressure is stabilizing. At that moment, I suddenly felt no pain at all. When the heart aches to its limit, numbness takes over. Jiang Nan stopped the video. The conference room was deathly quiet. I looked up at Lu Wenju. His face was as white as paper. I asked, now, are you still going to call this a medical judgment? Lu Wenju opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Chen Yingxue wasn't there. But through that footage, she had finally nailed herself into everyone's line of sight. The hospital director wiped his sweat. This material needs further verification. I cut him off. Go ahead, I'm not afraid of verification. I pulled the wedding ring out of my bag. Everyone's eyes locked onto it. I placed the ring on the conference table and slid it toward Lu Wenju. Lu Wenju, on the early morning of March 17th, you didn't make a choice as a doctor. I looked at him, my voice low but loud enough for everyone to hear. You made a choice as a husband, confirming that I would understand. And then you put me last. His eyes flickered. I stood up, my hands pressed against the edge of the table. The wound throbbed, but I stood firm. From today, I don't understand. The divorce mediation was scheduled 3 days after the investigation hearing. Lu Wenju finally showed up on time. He wore a black suit, no tie. In the past, he rarely dressed like this. His white doctor's coat was his armor, making him forever calm, reliable, and above reproach in a crowd. Now, without the white coat, he just looked like a tired man. The mediation room was small. A long table, 2 chairs on each side. Jiang Nan and I sat on one side. Lu Wenju and his lawyer sat on the other. The mediator began with the standard procedure, asking both parties if there was any possibility of reconciliation. Lu Wenju immediately looked at me. Yes, I said. No. His eyes darkened. The mediator looked a bit awkward. Ms. Lin, you can state your demands first. Jiang Nan submitted the documents for me. First, dissolve the marriage. Second, legally divide the joint marital property. Third, recover Ms. Lin's premarital personal assets and personal payments made during the marriage. Fourth, regarding the rescue incident on March 17th, the medical complaint will proceed separately and will not be withdrawn due to the divorce mediation. Lu Wenju's lawyer frowned. Some of Ms. Lin's demands are unrelated to the divorce, especially the medical complaint, which has a clear coercive nature. Jiang Nan smiled. A person who nearly died on the operating table filing a complaint according to the law is coercion. Then what do you call diverting the blood supply? The other side fell silent. Lu Wenju suddenly spoke. Ji, I don't want to take this to court. I looked at him. Then sign the papers. I can compensate you for anything except the divorce. What I want is the divorce. He lowered his voice. You're just in too much pain right now. Once you're better, once your emotions stabilize, you'll regret this. I smiled. See, you still think this is an emotional issue, isn't it? His eyes were red-rimmed. We've been married for 7 years. Are you really going to negate everything because of one rescue? It's not me negating it, I said. It's you who weighed our 7 years of marriage during that rescue. He was stunned. I continued, and the scale showed I'm not as important as Chen Yingxue. Lu Wenju clenched his fingers. I don't love her. This statement came out of nowhere. Everyone in the mediation room fell silent for a moment. I looked at him. He seemed to have finally found a point he could explain, saying urgently, I admit, I feel guilty towards Yingxue. She was sick before she went abroad back then, and I wasn't there for her. She's in a bad state since she returned, and I want to make it up to her. But that's not love, I asked. Then what is it? Responsibility. I nodded. So you used your responsibility towards me to make up for your responsibility towards her. His face turned pale. Lu Wenju Don't use love to explain a crime, and don't use responsibility to explain favoritism. His lawyer immediately said, Ms. Lin, please watch your wording. Mr. Liu has committed no crime. I looked at him. I'm talking about a moral crime. As for legal and professional responsibility, we'll wait for the investigation's conclusion. Jiang Nan lowered his head to suppress a laugh, but Lu Wenju didn't refute. He looked at me, his voice so low it was almost pleading. Gigi, I really never wanted you to die, but you wanted me to endure. This sentence rendered him completely speechless. The mediator sighed. Mr. Liu, since Ms. Lin's intention to divorce is clear, let's return to the agreement. Terms. Lu Wenju suddenly pushed the agreement away. I don't agree. Jiang Nan sneered. Then we'll sue, or separate, whatever. Lu Wenju looked at me. I won't sign. Before I could speak, his phone suddenly rang. The screen showed Ingxue. Lu Wenju glanced at me instinctively, then rejected the call. In less than 5 seconds, it rang again. His expression changed. He stood up, walked to the door, and answered, What's wrong? Whatever was said on the other end, his voice immediately became tense. Blood pressure dropped again. Don't cry first, I'm on my way. I sat still in my seat, watching him calmly. Such a familiar scene. Every time we got to a critical point in our conversation, Chen Ingxue would always have some emergency. In the past, I would be sad, angry, and ask him why he always had to leave. Now, I just find it absurd. Lu Wenju hung up the phone and turned to look at me. Ingxue has a sudden situation. I need to go check on her. Let's reschedule the mediation. I said, no need to reschedule. He frowned. Gigi, her situation is urgent. So what? I asked. You're going to leave me again, to go save her? His face darkened. You know that's not what I meant. I nodded. Of course I do. You just happen to choose her every single time. Lu Wenju stood there, caught between a rock and a hard place. His lawyer whispered a reminder. Mr. Liu, the mediation process isn't over yet. His phone rang again. Chen Ingxue had perfect timing. Lu Wenju closed his eyes briefly, but in the end, he grabbed his coat. We'll talk when I get back. As he reached the door, I called out to him, Lu Wenju. He turned around. I handed a stack of printed documents to his lawyer. This is a detailed breakdown of Chen Ingxue's fee reductions over the past 6 months, under the guise of hospital charity relief. And here's the timeline linking her family's investment intentions with your personal approvals. Please make sure to inform Mr. Liu that every time he leaves, there's a price to pay. Lu Wenju's face changed instantly. You investigated Ingxue. I looked at him. I investigated my money, my life, and my marriage. How is it that every single one of them leads back to her? He froze at the door. Jiang Nan handed over another stack of chat logs. And these, while they may not directly affect the divorce asset division, they're more than enough to prove that Mr. Liu has maintained a personal relationship with Ms. Chen that goes beyond the normal doctor-patient boundary, and has given her special treatment in resource allocation. One page slid to the edge of the table. Lu Wenju looked down and saw the line. She's sensible, she won't make a fuss. His face looked like he'd been slapped hard. I stood up. The mediator quickly said, Ms. Lin, your health. I'm fine. I picked up my cane and walked over to Lu Wenju. You always say I'm sensible. I looked into his eyes. From today on, you'll find out just how hard it is to appease a Lin Gigi who's no longer sensible. With that, I walked past him and left the mediation room first. The hallway was bright. Jiang Nan caught up and asked, Does it hurt? I nodded. It hurts. Can you still hold on? I looked out the window. Sunlight fell on the hospital's white walls, blindingly bright. I can hold on, I said. After all, I've already survived once without blood. On the day of the official investigation, the conference room was packed. The hospital board, medical affairs department, nursing department, blood transfusion department, legal team, third-party experts, and 2 staff members from the overseeing authority were all present. Lu Wenju sat next to the main seat, not asterisk at asterisk the main seat. That one detail already said a lot. In the past, whenever Lu Wenju appeared in this hospital, everyone would automatically leave the center seat for him. He was the star, the face, the god Lu the patients talked about. Now, he was seated at the side. The white light shone on his face, making him look even more haggard than last time. Chen Yingxue was also there. She sat in the back row, wearing a light blue dress with a knitted cardigan draped over her shoulders, still fragile, still pale, her eyes reddening as if she could cry at any moment. When she saw me enter, she immediately stood up. "Sister Gigi." I didn't stop. Jiang Nan pulled out a chair for me. I sat down and placed my file bag on the table. The staff member from the overseeing authority opened the proceedings. "Today, we are investigating whether the blood allocation during the emergency rescue on the early morning of March 17th complied with regulations, whether there was any improper intervention, and whether the related charity relief procedures were compliant. All parties are to state the facts truthfully." Lu Wenju spoke first. His voice was still steady. The situation that night was critical. Both patients were in life-threatening danger. As the lead on duty, I made an emergency decision on blood allocation based on my assessment at the time. Looking back, Lin Jiji was out of danger, and Chen Yingxue received treatment. From the results, both patients were saved. Hearing that, I couldn't help but smile. Asterisk from the results, asterisk they always love looking at results. As long as I didn't die, the process could be glossed over. The supervisor looked at me. "Ms. Lin, if you have objections, you can raise them later." I nodded. "I will." Lu Wenju continued. "I admit that as a husband, I failed in communication. I didn't explain things to Lin Jiji in time, which led to misunderstandings. But I won't accept a complex rescue being slandered as personal favoritism." Chen Yingxue immediately lowered her head and wiped her tears. Perfect timing. Some people looked at her with sympathy in their eyes. When it was my turn, I didn't speak right away. I opened the file bag and laid out the evidence one by one. Copies of medical records, the blood transfusion application timeline, the blood allocation authorization form, surveillance footage, a transcript of the ward recording, Chen Yingxue's rescue fund application materials, and proof of payments made during the marriage. With each piece I placed down, the conference room grew quieter. I said, "Lu Wenju just said both patients were saved. From the results, his decision didn't cause death." I looked up at everyone. "Then I want to ask, if someone is pushed off a cliff and happens to get caught on a branch, surviving, can the pusher say, from the results, she's alive?" No one spoke. I continued. "On March 17th, at 2:47 a.m., I submitted my blood transfusion application. The blood bank confirmed it at 2:55 a.m. At 3:12 a.m., Lu Wenju redirected 2 units of blood to Chen Yingxue, knowing I was still losing blood. This fact is recorded in the system." Jiang Nan cooperated by opening the projection, and the timeline appeared on the screen. I didn't get emotional, I just read the times. 2:47 a.m. My transfusion application submitted. 2:55 a.m. Blood bank confirmation. 3:12 a.m. Lu Wenju modified the allocation. 3:28 a.m. My blood pressure dropped. 3:46 a.m. A stranger donated blood to supplement. If that donor hadn't shown up, would I have died? Let the experts judge. The third-party experts flipped through the materials, their expressions grim. One senior expert said, "Based on the records, Ms. Lin was indeed at risk of continuous blood loss at that time. The delay in transfusion significantly increased the risk of shock and death." Murmurs finally broke out in the conference room. Lu Wenxu's face darkened. I looked at him. "Did you hear that? It's not just my emotions talking." He didn't respond. I signaled to play the surveillance footage. That video appeared on the screen again. This time, everyone saw it clearly. Lu Wenju said, "Send it to Chen Yingxue first." Director Han warned him of the risk. Lu Wenju said, "She's my wife. I know her. She'll understand." In front of the screen, Chen Yingxue suddenly burst into tears. "Brother Wenju just wanted to save me. He didn't mean any harm." I turned to her. "Miss Chen, you finally admitted you knew he was saving you." She froze. I picked up another document. "You called me earlier, saying you didn't know the blood came from my side. But in the recording, you kept emphasizing you just wanted to survive." Jiang Nan played the audio clip. Chen Yingxue's voice echoed in the room. "You've already been Brother Wenxu's wife for 7 years. I just wanted to live. What did I do wrong?" Many people's looks toward her shifted. Chen Yingxue's face turned pale. "I was emotional then. I said the wrong thing. I said, every time you say the wrong thing, it lands right on my life." She looked at Lu Wenju, crying. This time, He didn't immediately shield her. Your gaze fell on the documents on the table. As if you finally understood, you couldn't protect her anymore, I continued. Second question. Does Chen Yingxue meet the criteria for the hospital's charitable aid and fee reduction program? The screen switched. The aid fund application form appeared. Applicant, Chen Yingxue. Recommender, Lu Wenju. Review opinion, Dean's special approval. The financial exemptions were listed clearly, I said. I helped establish this aid system 3 years ago. Recipients must provide proof of financial hardship, undergo a medical assessment, and pass the foundation's review. Chen Yingxue submitted no hardship proof, wasn't on the public list, yet she received a special exemption. Lu Wenju finally spoke. I can personally make up for this part of the cost. I looked at him. You can make up the money, but you can't make up the process. The supervisor noted the key points. Some faces on the board of directors had already turned grim. I picked up the last document. Third question. Did the Chen family's investment promise affect the allocation of medical resources? Lu Wenju jerked his head up. Lin Jiji, this has nothing to do with the rescue, whether it does or not. The investigation team will decide, I said. I'm just providing the timeline. I read out a few dates. Chen Yingxue returned to the country and was admitted to the hospital. Lu Wenju contacted the Chen family about the rehabilitation center investment. Chen Yingxue got a VIP room and fee reductions. Chen Yingxue had post-surgery bleeding. Lu Wenju transferred blood. The Chen family's investment remained unsigned. Each point, taken alone, could be explained. Together, they painted an ugly picture. Chen Yingxue panicked. That was between my father and the hospital. I didn't know, Jiang Nan said calmly. Miss Chen, it's fine if you don't know. We can ask your father for clarification later. She fell silent completely. The investigation meeting lasted 3 hours. In the end, the supervising department ordered the hospital to continue sealing all materials. Lu Wenju was suspended from his management duties during the investigation, no longer allowed to participate in case discussions or communicate with relevant personnel. Chen Yingxue's aid exemptions and VIP resource arrangements were to be separately reviewed. When the meeting ended, Lu Wenju sat in his chair, as if all strength had drained from him. I stood up to leave. He suddenly called out, Gigi. I stopped. He looked at me, eyes red. Did you have to humiliate me in front of so many people? I turned around. Lu Wenju, when I was lying in a hospital bed with tubes all over me, hearing the nurse say my blood had been swapped for Miss Chen's, that was humiliating too. His face went pale. I continued, but I didn't humiliate you. It's just that the things you did are finally being seen by others. I picked up my cane and walked toward the door. Behind me, Chen Yingxue cried out, Wenshu Ji. This time, Lu Wenju didn't move. After the investigation meeting, the hospital's atmosphere shifted fast. Before, everyone called me the dean's wife. Those 2 words carried envy, flattery, and a silent assumption. An assumption that I belonged to Lu Wenju, an assumption that my position came from his status. Now, they started calling me Teacher Lin. Someone met me in the elevator and whispered, Teacher Lin, I'm sorry, I knew not everyone truly meant it, but they understood now that this hospital had once compressed a living person into the title of Dean's wife. The Dean's wife would understand, the Dean's wife would back down, the Dean's wife wouldn't pursue it, but Lin Jiji would when news spread that Lu Wenju had been suspended from his management role. Chen Yingxue was the first to lose her composure. Her father's company was already strapped for cash, and the so-called investment had never materialized. Now that the hospital was under investigation, the Chen family quickly distanced themselves, claiming it was just a routine business discussion. Never a commitment. Chen Yingxue called Lu Wenju, crying that her father had scolded her. This time, Lu Wenju didn't go. Xiaoju later told me that Chen Yingxue waited for him at the hospital entrance for 3 hours, until her family's driver finally picked her up. Madam. No, Professor Lin, Xiaoju said quietly over the phone, I don't think she used to be this fragile. Today, with no one to placate her, she cursed out the nurses like a sailor. I wasn't surprised. Fragility is just another act. As long as someone's willing to pay for it, the show goes on. Lu Wenju finally saw it. Chen Yingxue didn't need him. She needed his resources, his guilt, his favoritism, but he saw it. Too late. The day the court filed the case, I went myself. Jiang Nan tried to stop me, said she could handle everything. I insisted, I'll sign the beginning and the end myself. The courthouse lobby was packed, people argued over child custody, others glared red-eyed over property splits. A young couple sat in silence in the corner, waiting for a verdict long overdue. I sat down, slowly flipping through the divorce petition. A copy of our marriage certificate was clipped to the first page. In the photo, Lu Wenju and I were both young. Back then, he didn't know how to put on his director of surgery airs for the camera. He smiled like an idiot. I leaned on his shoulder, my eyes bright as if they held stars. I stared for a few seconds, then turned the page. Jiang Nan asked, "Can't let go?" "No," I said. "I just think that version of me was real too. I really loved, I really believed, I really thought two people could go far by working together." Admitting that isn't shameful. What's shameful is that Lu Wenju treated my sincerity like an unlimited credit line. After the documents were submitted, the clerk verified the information. "Lin Jiji, you confirm the divorce filing?" I nodded. "Confirmed. The claims include asset division, recovery of advanced payments, and damages for emotional distress." "Confirmed." When the pen touched the paper, my fingers still trembled slightly, not from hesitation, from the injury. I didn't have enough strength. Jiang Nan steadied my wrist. "Take your time." I wrote my name stroke by stroke, Lin Jiji. When I finished, I let out a long breath as I walked out of the courthouse. Lu Wenju stood at the bottom of the steps. He looked like he'd been waiting for a long time. The wind messed up his hair, and his eyes were bloodshot. When he saw me, he stepped forward immediately. Jiang Nan blocked him. "Mr. Lu, talk to the lawyer." He didn't look at her, only at me. "Jiji, let's talk," I said. "If it's about the lawsuit, talk to Jiang Nan. If it's about feelings, there's no point." His voice cracked. "I'm not here to stop you today. I just want to ask, did you ever really think about giving me one chance?" I looked at him. There was pain in his eyes, and resentment. Once, I was terrified of that look. If he showed even a hint of exhaustion or sadness, I'd blame myself for being too harsh. I'd think, he's already tired enough. Why make him feel worse? But not anymore. "I did," I said. Lu Wenju froze. "I gave you plenty of chances. The first time Chen Yingxue called you in the middle of the night after she returned, you lied and said it was a hospital emergency. I didn't press it. When she checked into the VIP ward, you said she had no one to rely on. I didn't call you out. When she used the relief fund to reduce her bills, I reminded you about the procedural issues. You told me not to be so cold-hearted. I dropped it. On the night of the car accident, if you had followed protocol to save me, I wouldn't have investigated you. After the rescue, if you had told me the truth immediately, I might have listened to your explanation." I paused. "But every time, you chose her. Every time, you asked me to understand." Lu Wenchu's eyes turned red. "I was wrong." I nodded. "I know." He grabbed at a sliver of hope. Then, "But I'm not responsible for forgiving you." His expression froze. I kept walking down the steps. Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed my wrist. His grip wasn't hard, but it hit the old needle mark. I winced in pain. Jiang Nan shoved him away instantly. "Lu Wenju." He let go in panic. "Sorry, I didn't mean to." I looked down at the faint bruise circling my wrist. "You didn't mean to do any of it." His face was pale. "You didn't mean to lie to me. You didn't mean to play favorites. You didn't mean to let me almost die." "Lu Wenju, you've not meant to too many times," he said quietly. "I just wanted to save someone." I looked at him, and suddenly remembered that video from the investigation. "Then save yourself now." He looked up. I said, "Admit you were wrong, accept the investigation, sign the divorce papers, stop tying Chen Yingxue, the hospital, and me together. You've saved so many people. At least this once, don't pave your own path with someone else's pain." Lu Wenchu's eyes trembled. After a long silence, he asked, "If I sign, is there still a chance for us?" I didn't hesitate. "No." The wind swept across the steps of the courthouse. His shoulders sagged slightly like a statue finally cracking. I walked past him. His voice came from behind. "Jiji, I really did love you." I paused for a moment but didn't turn around. "I really did almost die." After those words fell, He never chased after me. The day the divorce decree came down, the weather was beautiful. I could already walk a short distance without my cane. The wound left a long scar, winding from my abdomen to my side. The first time I saw it during a dressing change, my mother cried, but I didn't. I reached out and touched the scar. It was ugly, but it proved I had survived. In the end, Lu Wenju signed the mediated divorce, not because he suddenly came to his senses, but because the investigation results left him no room to stall. The hospital's internal review determined that he had violated procedures in resource allocation during the emergency and failed to avoid conflicts of interest. He was suspended from his position as director and subjected to further industry disciplinary action. Chen Yingshue's medical fee reduction was revoked, and the relevant review personnel were also dealt with. The Chen family's investment fell through entirely, and they even turned around to blame Chen Yingxue for damaging the family's reputation with her personal actions. Lu Wenju fell from his pedestal, but not dramatically. There were no drums or gongs, no public condemnation, just the hospital's website quietly removing his director profile. His name disappeared from the outpatient duty roster for a while. The people who once swarmed around him began to avoid his office. That was more real than any public humiliation. What he lost was the dignity he valued most. Chen Yingxue came to see me once that day. I had just finished my follow-up exam and was sitting in the hospital lobby waiting for my mother to pick up my medication. She stood in front of me, much thinner, no makeup on her face, and the fragility in her eyes was mostly gone. Lin Jiji, she called me by my full name. Are you satisfied now? I looked up at her. What? Wenju Ji is ruined because of you. And I'm ruined because of you. She gritted her teeth. You survived, so why can't you just let us go? Those words were too familiar. I couldn't help but laugh. Chen Yingxue, is that the only line you people have? Her face turned ugly. I said, I survived. But that doesn't mean you didn't hurt me. I didn't die. But that doesn't mean you weren't wrong. Her eyes reddened. But I was really about to die back then, so you should thank the doctors for saving you by the rules, not thank Lu Wenju for breaking them to favor you. I looked at her. What you should be most grateful for is that I didn't die. Otherwise, what you'd be facing today wouldn't just be revoked fees and a shattered reputation. She was choked silent. I stood up. Now I was steadier than her. Chen Yingxue, wanting to live isn't wrong. What's wrong is thinking my life could be given to you. What's wrong is using your tears to force others to pay your bills. Her lips trembled. Do you think you've won? You got divorced, you're scarred, your body is ruined, you've just destroyed yourself too. I looked at her, no anger in my heart. She still thought a woman's victory or defeat was tied to a man. Whoever got Lu Wenju won, whoever left the marriage lost. I said, whether I win or not isn't for you to decide. Mom came back with the medicine, saw Chen Yingxue, and her face turned cold. You still dare to show up? Chen Yingxue instinctively stepped back. I steadied. Mom, let's go. We walked past her. She suddenly shouted from behind, Brother Lu Wenju won't forget me. I stopped and turned to look at her. Then I wish you two remember each other for a lifetime. She froze. I didn't look at her again. Months later, I started working again. Not returning to Lu Wenju's hospital, nor to my old law firm, Jiangnan, and I set up a small medical communication and compliance studio dedicated to building transparent processes between patients and hospitals, and helping smaller hospitals refine their emergency resource allocation systems. At my first lecture, I stood on stage and spoke about the right to know and resource allocation documentation in rescue scenarios. Someone from the audience asked, Teacher Lin, why did you choose this direction? I held the microphone, paused for 2 seconds, then I said, because I was once the person almost swallowed by the system. The room fell silent. I didn't talk about my marriage, didn't mention Lu Wenju. I just laid out, one by one, the lessons I'd earned with my life, sharing them with more people. After the lecture, I got a text from Lu Wenju. Gigi, I saw the video of your lecture. You're more yourself than before. I didn't reply. A moment later, another one came. I signed the disciplinary confirmation and stepped down from management. I'll just be a doctor from now on. I'm sorry. I stared at those 3 words. I'm sorry. A belated apology is like a glass of cold water. When it's finally handed to you, It can't quench your thirst anymore. I deleted the message and put my phone back in my bag. Jiang Nan walked over. Who was that? Spam. She laughed. You did great today. I was nervous as hell. Didn't show. She handed me a cup of warm water. Celebrate tonight. I nodded. Sure. As we walked out of the venue, the sunset was beautiful. I stood on the steps, looking down at my ring finger. The mark was faint now. I sold that ring later and donated the money to the public blood donation organization that had helped the stranger who gave me blood in an emergency. I never found out who that person was. The hospital kept it private, but I always remembered. Someone, when I was at my most helpless, gave me a bag of blood that truly saved my life. Not a promise, not love, just a kindness so real it couldn't be denied. Later, I went to the seaside for recovery. Mom walked with me on the wooden boardwalk. I moved slowly, but each step was steadier than the last. The sea breeze blew through my hair, and the wound still ached sometimes. Mom asked, "Do you still hate him?" I thought about it. I used to. And now I'm busy. She laughed, then her eyes reddened. I took her arm. Mom, don't cry, I'm really fine. She nodded. Mom knows. In the distance, someone was flying a kite. The string was pulled tight by the wind, but the kite soared high. I suddenly remembered Lu Wenju once telling me that a doctor's hands are for saving lives. So his life couldn't be bogged down by trivial matters. Back then, I believed him. I handled his trivialities, settled his family, maintained his dignity, patched his holes, until one day, lying on the operating table, I realized, no one is born to be someone else's rear guard. I had my own life to save. From that day on, I stopped being the dean's wife. Stopped being the understanding spouse. Stopped being the Lin Jiji who could always be sacrificed for others. I saved myself first.